Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Just Shelve It. I'm Jesse Arnold. And this
I'm Curtis
is
Ackerman.
Yes, sorry, I'm getting used to this. Curtis Ackerman is over here, and this is episode 24 of Shooting the Shelf. Busy day. Did you get to do anything in between our chat with Emil and?
Got to eat. Got to read a book. I got a new book in that we'll kind of talk about. And I got a new ball that I was just kind of playing around with the kids. It's kind of got like a fan or something in it. It like hovers, so you kind of toss
cool.
it and kind of hangs out. I saw it online. I was like, oh, I'll pick one of those up. So we were playing around with that, but didn't have much time between last show and this show.
Yeah.
So, but I did, and I did order a couple more Father Christmases because you talked me into it. So
I cleaned up some stuff, put my laundry away that I didn't get to do before the show, and now I did a little painting, and here we are, and I'm ready to go. So, folks, give a warm digital round of applause to Pete McCarthy.
Hello.
Hey, you figured out the name thing.
I did.
Excellent.
I'm just doing a little marketing right now, making sure that everybody knows this is going on the My Wife's Gonna Kill Me support page. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
No, this is great. I know we set this up quite a while back, and I think I know we agreed on it, and I forgot to put you on my actual calendar. And then I talked to Emil. I'm like, oh, this Sunday's open. And I was like, wait, no, that's when I'm talking to Pete. So I was like, Emil, can you do it earlier in the day? He's like, oh, that would be great. I was like, perfect.
Well, full disclosure, you reminded me like a week ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm with Jesse. And then today I'm literally running for my life to the exfil on DMZ on Call of Duty, and my phone, and I'm like, hey, we're ready anytime. And I'm like, I better get on this helicopter because I got places to be. So I literally poked my head and my wife's in the tub, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be on Jesse's show. Oh my gosh, that's right. So yeah, but, just busy, man. Lots of stuff going on in the nerd world.
Indeed. So you've been doing quite a bit of gaming since your show this morning, because you went and did D&D, which we'll talk some about tonight.
Yep. Yeah, we recorded episode 272 this morning. I bailed out of there a little bit early, got home, wolfed down 2 cans of SpaghettiOs, and then jumped into my campaign. We did that from 12 until 4, and then dinner and TV with the family, and then here I am.
Awesome.
So
excellent. So we can, I know you said you were fine talking about some Legions Con stuff. We had a great time at that a little over a month ago.
We did.
And I heard some very funny things about your guys' breakout session between Sean and Anthony in their competition.
It was very fun, and it was very well attended. I wrote those questions just basically off of Source Horseman, looking through the factions, looking through the releases, and it's very difficult when you are doing a mini game show like that, and Cornboy is sitting there correcting everything you're saying wrong. Like I'm used to being surrounded with people like Travis, so there's no correcting me because he doesn't know any better. So no, it was an absolute blast, and it was standing room only in there, which was super cool. Now, for those of you that don't know, it only held like 25 people, so that's not as impressive as obviously it sounds, but no, people were excited about it, and that whole weekend is totally crazy because you don't ever think that people are going to be like, hey, will you sign this? And you're like, sure. And so I signed all these figures with there's Steven. So I signed all these figures, which was super cool. And we were talking about it. I'm like, I hope that someday, like, I only want to be famous now, like super famous now, because I want somebody to try to like go to Pawn Stars and sell one of these figures and have the expert go, that's not his signature, because my signature never looks the same twice. And they're going to be like just heartbroken. This whole time they thought they had my autograph and they didn't, which they actually did. I'm a terrible writer. So
best I can do is $20.
Right. I'll give you 5. So.
Well, and you guys were signing a lot because you had your own figures made. How cool is that? Like, Tell us about that.
What in the hell? That whole thing from start to finish was incredibly surreal. It still is surreal. And you kind of go from not ever thinking that could be something to seeing that they do a figure in homage to somebody, and everybody in their head goes, well, that would be kind of cool. And it's just kind of that passing thought. And so then all of a sudden they drop the bomb on us that they're doing the Furious Four, and the figure's based on me and the 3 other hosts of the podcast. And we literally went through, yeah, what's up, Anthony? I know. So you should see my pants. They're over there on the floor. So you kind of go through this whole thing, and then you're like, are we being punked? Like, this is a joke, right? And then you realize it's real, and then you kind of go through this. And now I've swung so hard from never ever thinking about it to then feeling undeserving to now I get incredibly pissed when people are like selling them. Like, what gives you the right to sell my figure? I'm not good enough to be in your collection now. So it really created some monsters, that whole process. But it's a ton of fun. And like I said, to see everybody at that event and meet so many people and be able to buy from so many people and see so many other people's incredible art, and just sitting in the lobby chatting, it was just from top to bottom. It was just a great time, and we couldn't wait to get there. None of us wanted to leave. And that just tells you what kind of experience that is.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at, that people are trying to sell your figures that they don't want it. Or you could look at the flip side, which is they're in such high demand that, people need to get these things. They can't even wait for the regular release.
That's cute. That's a naive little position to take up in life, Curtis. I'm glad your glass is half full of bullshit. So
I will say that I don't know how much I'm sure you've popped and swapped and played with these things, but it is a great set. Like, there's so much cool stuff in there, and like, I really love it. I can't wait for the regular release. I'm going to order so many of them. Yeah.
I had to tweak, the Petorrion and the Pelvicus. I couldn't leave them as they were.
That's what I've done with them.
Nice.
Yeah,
they're literally not even out of the box yet.
Are they signed?
No, I did. Honestly, I thought about it, and I was like, man, that's like Steve Bisciotti pompous. Like that, even that's not something I could do. So no, what was super cool, I don't know if you guys if you saw this morning on the episode, but Trav ripped open a 2-pack and a Krampus and let Steve kind of go nuts and build what he thought was a cool version of Cody Cat that we gave to Seducer Cody, who produces our show, to say thank you. And you don't really get it until all of a sudden you lay it all out and you have all the parts and all the pieces, and you kind of start to do that. And that was only one 2-pack, just a very, very cool. There was a great, what they call those blown up versions where they take somebody did photography of that, and you're like, wow, like you don't get how much is in there until you see it in that way. So
yeah.
Well, and Jeremy killed the bios on there. They're like, for those of us that are fans of your show, it's a good way to introduce those characters into mythos, but at the same time have a nod to who you guys really are in real life. So
right. I
thought that was really cool.
Yeah, he absolutely crushed it. And like I said, that whole thing top to bottom ended up being not only very, very flattering, but I thought incredibly accurate. And it was just a lot of fun. So
that's cool. I think someone was talking. Was it the game we were talking? Was it on your? I don't remember where it was. Someone was talking about your characters, and I was just, rolling up to a battle or something, and they're just kind of like, what are we doing here? We don't want to be a part of this.
Right. And that's so true. And that was there's been more than one comment kind of in that vein of like, these guys all talk a big game, but out there on the battlefield, like I'm hiding behind a boulder, and Jeremy, we all know what Jeremy's doing,
Yeah.
And Steve is at the front of the pack, aggravating everybody, and not maybe necessarily able to defend anyone. And Travis just didn't show up, so
he's naked somewhere.
He's naked somewhere,
He's in the cauldron.
Well, and what's super funny, too is, I love the names. I love all of it, but I kind of like in my head, I was like, it's going to be a skeleton and I'm going to be humorous because I just thought that would, and I was like, you missed the mark on that, Jeremy. Like that was a missed opportunity. So I definitely scolded him for that, but no, well, just again, super cool. And then the picture too of that Nate, check that Trevor did 1-6 shooter of us sitting at the table and how we had old man Kyle in there and Cody in the crystal ball and just the Nate Barch's art, of course, just absolutely crushed it. Every person that contributes to the success of the Four Horsemen line, everybody came out swinging for that, and it came out fantastic. So.
Yeah, Trevor's the picture with you guys around the table and stuff, absolutely classic. Best work he's done. So I have no problem saying that.
Right.
I knew as soon as I saw that. I think he revealed it. Was it on Legion's Lounge that he revealed that? It might have been Jeremy that revealed it on your guys' show when he was showing me the figures. Yep. And I was like, "That's got to be a print, and I need it, and I need those guys to sign it." Like it's just so good.
And if 1-6 shooter can correct me on this, I don't know if you guys noticed he rolled his eyes in the chat because I started to say Nate. That's the problem with a running joke like that. You joke about something long enough and it ends up actually happening.
Yeah.
But and that was a great seller for him, and that made me super happy because I'm like, you anytime somebody shows up with their art to sell, there's a direct tie back to. It's hurtful if people don't buy your stuff because you created it, And so I give props to all you artists and both of you included in that. You kind of put a piece of yourself out there, and if stuff doesn't sell, it can be very easy to take that personal. So I love to see you guys selling your stuff, and especially to the people like me who are never going to be talented enough to accomplish any of those things. So,
well, we all have different skills. So
yep. Yeah, and we saw yours on full display throughout Legion's Con on the G-Con event. I was dying with the whole, you becoming the new director of sales and marketing. That whole thing was great. And then just throughout the event, like you having to shout out different times when we needed to wrap it up or get people out of there and stuff. Like, yeah, you were on full display at G-Con for sure.
The G-Con, the figures are cool and nothing will ever diminish how cool those are to me. But I gotta say, the Horseman asking me to close out the show, that's highly competitive for a great moment of that weekend,
Yeah.
And what was super cool is we walked into the studio Thursday night, and it's the first thing Jeremy said to me, gave me a hug, said, "Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, by the way, they approved it today. You're going to close out the show." And I'm like, done. All right, let's do this, and you don't ever really know how that's going to go, or you don't know. In the off the cuff ends up, I mean, obviously the whole director thing, that whole thing was totally organic, and that was Jeremy. Jeremy started that and brought that up, and to be able to play off of that, it just kind of created a super fun moment that filled that void at the end there, and it was fun. Like I said, to be a part of it in that way was is always going to be a great feeling.
Well, this is 2 years in a row that you've closed out G-Con, right? And
yeah,
but the last one they kind of dropped it on you spur of the moment, whereas this one they give you a little bit more notice. And I saw you in the back while they were revealing some figures, like making notes and gotten stuff down. Were you nervous this year compared to last year when they dropped it on you at the last minute?
So last year was different because we were 8 minutes into the show last year, and Cornboy had to get up for something, and he goes, "Yeah, right now we're going to invite Pete from It's Going to Come Podcast to fill in for me," and I'm like, "Okay." And like I said, we were 8 minutes into the show, and I was just surprised to be in the room because down the hallway where G-Con took place this year, that's where all of the viewers from like Intern for a Day and guests were all watching it live from that warehouse. They were still in the studio last year for G-Con. So we went to go down to the warehouse. They said, no, you guys can stay in here. And I was like, kind of taken aback by that. And like I said, then 8 minutes in, Cornboy's going, "Hey, come sit here." And I'm talking with Jim and with Eric Treadaway. And so last year was a little bit easier because I didn't go in cold. I was like, okay, well, I've been on the show already once today. We'll just kind of wrap it up. And then when they told me I was going to be on, I'm like, man, I really need to try and do my best here. Then what they sprung on me this year was going up to talk about the hands. I wasn't going up. To my knowledge, I wasn't going up at all during the reveals. I was just closing out the show. They were having the other little peons like Travis and Steve and Jeremy go up throughout the show, and then I bring in save the best for last, the whole shooting match. And so Cornboy comes up and he says, "Hey, do you want to go up and talk about one of the figures?" Oh, well, duh, I'm not going to say no to that ever. And I get up there, they give me the hand pack. I'm like, all right, great. So, and then afterward, Cornboy grabs me and he goes, you know, that was intentional, right? And I said, what was intentional? He goes, that was like, if anybody can talk about the hands, it's Pete. I'm like, well, I appreciate that. But then that was super fun. So,
yeah. And then they put up a wrong picture at first. And right. you guys did that whole thing. That was gold. It was really good.
But I did try to be better prepared. And the other thing too was, it was very important to me, not necessarily trying to write for entertainment or write for comedic value, but to write for making sure that I hit everybody. I didn't want to throw shout outs and throw thank yous out and miss somebody. Nobody wants to be the guy that forgets Diego, or forgets Vasapolo or something like that. So that was the main reason for the writing. And once I got everybody down, then I kind of started filling in little blanks as I thought of stuff. But yeah, I was definitely, I don't know if nervous was the right word, but I was definitely trying to be more prepared than I maybe normally am when I go on camera. So like tonight, I'm not even wearing pants. So
there you go.
I mean, that's
pants are optional.
Yeah, as long as you don't stand up, we're good.
All right, perfect.
So obviously you're into Mythic Legions now, and you got your own figure, and I know you've talked a lot about. It seems like you were a Turtles fan growing up. You want to talk about where your love for that line started, and any other things that you may have collected growing up?
Yeah, I Turtles was always my big thing when I was a kid. And I wasn't even that big of a I didn't watch the cartoon religiously. I didn't. For me, it was all about the figures. So it was the nostalgic tie I have to those is most of the stories that I remember of the Turtles were my brother and I's imagination. We didn't have much backstory. It was just us doing kind of what we wanted to do. And there was a lot of figures kind of during that time frame that you'd go to the store to get a turtle, and they didn't, you have all of them, or they didn't have very many. And so we ended up having all of the weird, obscure stuff. The food fighters and barnyard commandos and the toxic crusaders and all of those kind of fun, the just neon out of this world stuff. Biker mice from Mars, and there was all those just great figures. And when I got back into collecting as an adult, Turtles was where it was at for me. The very tail end of my childhood toys was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the kind of the original. And having, I had that Megazord, and I had all those figures, and I had a ton of the villains, and that was kind of the end of it for me. Well, when I got back into collecting, there was no shortage really of Turtles to collect, go back and getting all the vintage. And I went back and got my original Megazord. Mask was another huge one from when I was a kid. And of course, G.I. Joe, because every kid played with those. And I got heavy into all those vintage, and I built up quite a big collection. I ended up liquidating all of my Joes. I still have all my Mask. I still have all my Turtles. But as far as collecting now, I'm pretty much just sticking with the Super 7 Ultimates line that are based off the Turtles. NECA's doing a great job with the cartoon ones, and they're also doing a great job with the movie ones. And I have the movie 4-pack, from San Diego Comic-Con. I have the big tall, 18-inch movie Turtles and movie Shredder. And but all I'm buying for Turtles right now are those Ultimates, because again, they're the ones that tie back to the Turtles for me, which ultimately was the figures. But they keep, recently on an episode, they were releasing, NECA's releasing even more turtle stuff that I didn't want to collect, which almost got me in trouble for those of you that are in the know when I made a comment to NECA specifically. But so it's becoming hard. So I'm going to end up getting the Donatellos, I think, because Donatello's my turtle. I'm going to end up getting probably the Casey Jones, like every version of Casey Jones, just because I love Casey Jones. But I had to dial back. I had to, if I would have tried to collect all the turtles, then I'd have to be, all over the boards, talking about how they're releasing too many figures and how it's Christmas time. How could they do this to me? And blah, 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 standard protocol, for people that are upset. But, the turtles, I don't think will ever go away. I mean, that's going to be a constant for me in some way, shape, or form in my collection. They're doing such a great job. Super 7 is with these ultimates. There's a few key figures that I need to have, Monty Moose being one of them. I may liquidate all my vintage. That's most likely my plan anyways. And just kind of focus on those, because I get the nostalgia from them, but I get the paint apps, I get the sculpt quality, I get the size, the scale definition that we always would have wanted as kids. If in the third grade we knew that was a thing, you know what I mean? But yeah,
they're really good updated versions of those figures. Like, I think I've heard Travis talk about, like, if he's sold classics at shows and stuff, and he's got like He-Man fans from way back when that'll be like, "Oh, I had that when I was a kid," and it's like, no, you really didn't. But in your mind, that's what they would have looked like. And I think that the Super 7 has done a good job with the turtles, to where they've taken that original toy and updated it and made it into the figures that we want now. So
yeah, they did a great job taking me. I mean, they took the Pete McCarthy fan that was attached to those turtles as a kid and go, okay, he's pushing 40 now. What does he want? Better, again, scale, articulation, sculpt, paint apps. And they brought all that. They got rid of all the monotone color side creatures, Joe Eyeball and what have you, and the weaponry. And they basically just said, hey, you know what? If we can capture the Pete McCarthys, we can sell these for $55 a pop, and they're going to eat them up. And we have been. So
yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. I think the only one that I'm like the big hitter for me that's missing is Rat King. That's the one that I'm like, man, how have they not done a Rat King yet? But
it's strange to me, because you're absolutely right. But I want a pizza face, and I want a tattoo. And like I said, Monty Moose was always, for whatever reason, that was my guy growing up. And what's great is they've given us a lot of very, very good figures, and they got a lot of running room left. And I'm hoping that as things progress forward, they'll continue to deliver as they have been, because that's the key to getting those figures. It's buying them now and keeping that line alive. And that's what's going to get us to some of the 93, 94 obscurity that the crazy people like me are looking forward to,
Scratch and Hot Dog, was it?
Hotspot. Yeah. Yep. Scratch, Hotspot. I can never, Dr. L, the shaman-like elephant.
Oh yeah.
Maverick, nothing can kill you, Maverick. You're 8 years old. You haven't even experienced life yet. So I want to say it's Dr. L, but late in the line, like a big, like a shaman style elephant would be an awesome figure if Ultimate's got their hands on it. The camel, and I don't remember his name either, was late in the line, and had the little Egyptian round kind of Shriner's hat and whatnot. And you think about what they've done with the simplest of turtle figures and how great they've made those. You get into some of that obscure stuff where they can scale it up big, and the color pop. I think those figures are going to be amazing if and when we get to them.
Nice.
Well, I think the cool thing about that turtle line is, you start off with the four turtles, and there's a lot of similar tooling on those, but then you start getting into some of these characters like you're talking about, and they're making new tooling for every single character. I mean, there's none of this stuff that's really reused.
Right.
So, yeah, it's pretty good.
Right. And that's, the Muck Man and Mutagen Man, those ones too. You look and you're like, this is a one-off. And then you understand that's why you get them in a pack with a bunch of small, more normal figures, if you will, because of that tooling aspect for sure. But
Easy Maverick. Pretty sure I know I got a couple years on Pete. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. So I know you were talking earlier today. You just got kind of back from playing D&D. You want to talk to us a little bit about how your love for D&D started and how you got into that?
Wow, yeah. I'm obsessive about stuff. It's a real problem in a lot of ways. So some guys I went to school with, and I hadn't seen a couple of them in a lot of years, and one was kind of bouncing in and out of my life, just living locally together, and they have a podcast called The Basement Dwellers, and I hooked up with them and to go on their show to talk about MesquiCon back one of the early years. And I was talking to him and I was like, D&D has always been something I've wanted to try. Nobody in my circle, I wasn't the kind of guy that was just going to get everything and become a DM and try that. It was, so I said, hey, if you've ever got room at your table, I would love to give it a shot. And a few weeks later, I sat down at the table and I created my first character. And they were in the middle of a campaign, and I was playing a human rogue by the name of Skura, which is jester in Latin. And they're in a tavern, and I'm introduced to them by being chased down the stairs by some bad people, running across their table, turning around, throwing a knife into the throat of a guy chasing me. And that was my introduction to them. And we've been playing ever since. So we wrapped that. We did that campaign. And I want to say we got to about level 6. But today we played probably close to our probably 45th or 46th session in our current campaign. And I'm currently a level 10 fighter, level 8 fighter, level 2 rogue. But we've had a player character die. And we've gone through 2 complete adventure books. We've got hours wrapped up into this, and the way the role-playing aspect gets, like your character, like you become your character and you become friends with these other characters, and we're very RP heavy, which I really enjoy. Our dungeon master, his name's Wes Tanner.
Can you explain that, what RP heavy means?
I'm sorry. Yeah. Role playing heavy.
Okay.
So there's kind of 2 schools of thought to different D&D groups. Some like to play it a little bit more tabletop style, where it's a lot more combat. So you kind of go from adventure to adventure, and there's not a lot in the interim. It's just kind of fight after fight after fight. Role play heavy or RP heavy is you actually kind of, our group will actually have a battle. We'll take a long rest. We actually will travel. We go to the store and re-up our supplies, and we have these conversations around the fire, and we, so it's more, again, it's much more role playing than it is just kind of straight combat. And so each player is relied upon a little bit more to flesh out the backstory of the character, and kind of work on becoming that character when you're in that setting versus just what can that character do. It's who is that character. And our dungeon master is absolutely incredible, and you guys can actually check him out. It's at Wes Tanner VO on Instagram. He does voiceover work as well, and he recently just read a Dr. Dolittle book for the audiobook side, and did 18 different voices of the different characters in the book.
Wow.
Is just insanely talented. Cool. So because of his level of talent, I mean, he kind of ups the whole experience, because he is literally, talking as all these different characters and remembering accents and all this stuff. And then everybody else in the group does accents. I don't. I do every accent I try, as Curtis probably knows, sounds like Bill Clinton, no matter what I do. So it's just a lot of fun. It's very immersive the way that we play. And I just, like I said, we've really enjoyed it. And today we had zero combat. Today was all wrapping up information from our last kind of big battle and then putting a plan into action for what we need to do moving forward. And there wasn't a ton to it, but it was just a fun time of setting up. And now when we get into our next actual session, a longer session, we're already prepared. We've got our equipment, we're set, we're ready to travel, and then we can kind of get into it and actually move through it without having to handle some of the more benign details.
And so how many years did you say?
This
You guys?
I've been playing for about 2.5 years. We've been on this
Okay.
particular campaign for 2.
Okay.
So with a couple of one shots here and there when people couldn't make it,
Sure.
different events and stuff. But
I started playing about not quite 8 years ago. I never played as a kid. It was kind of a no-fly zone as a child in our family. Like I wasn't even supposed to watch the cartoon. I snuck it in every now and then, but and it was always in the comics. So I remember always seeing like D&D ads in the comics that I was reading. I'm like, oh, I got to flip that. Can't let mom see that,
right.
And so it just never became a thing. I was always intrigued by it. It just never happened. So I worked part-time at a comic shop, and my one friend that I became friends with, who, while working there, he was saying that he had just started a campaign with some people and asked if I would want to join. I was like, sure. So I went over and we ended the official storyline of the campaign last year. And we've spent this entire year wrapping up all of our individual characters, like solo quests, to kind of wrap up. So we've been playing for almost 8 years with the same character. So saying goodbye to these characters is going to be rough in the new
Oh,
year.
absolutely, man. And like I said, it's amazing. A lot of comments about people wanting to try it. Do it. Find somebody. And now, especially with this right here, StreamYard, Zoom, Google Chat, Google Meet, Hangout, Microsoft, whatever, you can do it. You can be a part of it and not have to drive somewhere and sit and do it. So if you've been thinking about it, find somebody to play with, because it's been an absolutely great experience. And it's literally infiltrated. Like I look around at my computer desk right now and I can see 7 sets of dice, 2 sets of tokens. I've got at least 40 miniatures. I have like actual D&D little action figures from TSL from like the early 80s on my desk. It's I mean, because everybody needs a skull dice tower. It's insane. Like,
Well,
this is the kind of stuff that you find when you get into D&D, right? So you got your
nice.
Oh, those the bullets.
bullet dice.
Nice.
And then when you have a podcast, you get killer gifts like this from people like Christopher Lefebvre, and it's got my favorite set of dice in it, which are actually Mystic Mountain Gaming stone blood spatter dice.
Oh, nice.
I got a problem, and I admit it. But yeah, it's been absolutely great. Yeah, Steve. So it's a great time, and that's why I haven't invited you to play, Steven, because you ruin everything that you get involved in.
So you guys both play. It sounds interesting. I would like to, but I've never played before. Do you guys play online with these folks that you're doing these campaigns with, or are you guys meeting in person to play?
My group, take a moment there, Pete. My group, we meet in person. We meet pretty much every other Friday, almost consistently for the past, like I said, almost 8 years. It's 3 of us have been there the whole time, and there's been a couple people that have come and gone. So yeah, it's in person, except when during quarantine when we were allowed to go to other people's houses.
We started out in person, playing together. Wes actually built an amazing table, TV built into the center of it.
Oh,
We
nice.
use Foundry. It's all digital mapping. It's incredible. And COVID did the same thing to us, pushed us to online. And then the problem that we ran into is So I have the oldest kids. Some of these guys are just starting families, so 2 people have newborns, which was different. And unfortunately, this is an amazing thing for your family. These kids are adorable, but it does make life a little more challenging. So what we found is that we could get more short sessions in online. So we kind of, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll do like 2, 4, 5 hour online sessions on a Sunday afternoon or a weeknight. And then we'll get together and try to do a big long 8 hour on a Saturday. And that's when we plan food and, kind of do that whole thing. So we're kind of hybrid right now, but that's just out of necessity, because like I said, it can be, everybody is pretty local, with the exception of one of our people have about an hour's drive. So in the course this time of the year with the holidays, and then of course the roads and the snow and the ice, for those of you watching that don't live in, in the north of the US, that can become an issue. So we make it work. We would all prefer to be in person, obviously, because it's the biggest complaint that I have about being online is just the interaction. Sometimes no, go ahead. No, what were you saying? And you because kind of in that moment where when you're sitting at the table, you kind of feel what's kind of going on, and I think you step on each other a little bit less. And when you're as role play heavy as we are, it's a lot of communicating and a lot of talking. But in the grand scheme of things, that's a very minor concern, because like I said, it's all about getting together and having a good time. And it's great therapy. It's you get to get out of this world that causes us all anxiety and stress. And I get to go be Twaybor Inquisitor for 5 hours. And, I get to, I roll the dice, and it's a good time. I've really, really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Have you done any DMing yourself yet?
Nope, I haven't. I'm actually writing a homebrew right now called Kidnapping in Wayloon. And it's basically what we try to do is we try to have a one shot ready. So, hey guys, we're all getting together on Saturday, and then something comes up. Somebody can jump in as a guest DM, and kind of still run a game for the people that can be there, but it won't negatively impact our campaign. And also too, Wes puts hours and hours into preparing for our games. So we like to try to give him an opportunity to just be a player as well. So it isn't just always him DMing. So I've been working on that. It's just we haven't gotten a chance to actually roll it yet. And luckily, I've got 3 incredibly experienced DMs in the group. So they've been helping me with things, not stuff that will spoil anything for their enjoyment of the story, but as far as mechanically, and I'll be able to easily go, I want to do a check here, and they'll go, oh, is that insight or wisdom? Well, that'll be a wisdom check. Okay, cool. And I'll be able to check as I go to do it correctly. They long story short, they won't let me fail, so I'm just trying to be fun and creative with it and kind of create a game that I think everybody will enjoy. And we like puzzles, and we like that type of the investigation kind of stuff as well, not just the combat. So there's quite a bit of that in there, and I've really enjoyed writing the backstory. And just anytime you can creatively write, I think is a lot of fun. So kind of building the story to be able to say, hey, this is the town, and this is what's going on, and this is what's been happening for the last 20 years. When you guys arrive, okay, well, these people have been going missing. Well, you guys decide you're going to tackle it. Well, you have the backstory of the last 20 years of why this has happened and whatnot. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Have you had or thought about or gotten anyone to do a custom of your character from the campaign in Mythic Legions style?
Nope. We haven't done that. We actually are doing custom miniatures for our current campaign. But I haven't done anything in 1/6 scale or 1/12 scale yet. But you just said that.
You're
I
doing
don't know.
like the Hero Forge ones? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yep. So just buying the files and then printing them, and then see if I can't get Hobby Lobby or Steve or somebody to paint them up for us. Because we're hoping the goal of this campaign is to take us to level 20. So I mean, we've got plenty of time to get there, So but no, I think I don't know why, if I have thought of it, I'm not recalling it, but that's an amazing idea. And it's really silly that I have all of these customizers in my life and I haven't thought of a 6-inch scale toy bore. And I feel pretty silly at this point that I haven't done that yet. So
Well, we'll talk afterwards because I love.
perfect.
I'm working on making characters from like an actual book I wrote. I mean, it's not published yet, but uh, I just love bringing these characters to life. And I started doing one, not with mythics because they're not quite the right scale to make. My halfling rogue is my character I'm playing now.
Okay.
So I actually have a Maz Kanata from Black Series with an avatar character's head on it. So I got to paint him up and make my halfling.
Very cool.
But it's just I started this week in the Cabal. I do the Mythic Minute on Thursday nights, and this week I did Roll and Tell, where I tried to like translate I went through all the roles and all the races on the Source Horsemen compiled lists, and I tried to break down like cleric, fighter, rogue, and all the roles they had. And with people watching, we rolled up a dwarf, a fury dwarf character, with stats and everything, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'd like to think that there is something coming in the tabletop world. I mean, find me better canon for an amazing tabletop RPG. You know what I mean? You've got you've got a map, you've got factions, you've got races, I mean, it's all the pieces are there. It's just somebody actually sitting down and writing the manual and putting it all together. And I sincerely hope that becomes something, because I really think that that'll tap into. There's a lot of crossover in Mythic Legions collectors and Dungeons and Dragons. And, I think you're going to capture some Mythic Legions fans that would be excited about playing a tabletop game because it's Mythic Legions. And you might get some D&D fans that want to use a different universe. And then that brings them into collecting the figures. And I really think it's mutually beneficial, and hope that at some point, we see something like that, because man, that it is just, you read through those factions and you read through the characters and you're like, this is what it's all about, man. So
Greg here says never played tabletop games. His friends he grew up weren't into that kind of stuff. Sounds fun as hell. It seems like we got a lot of folks that would like to try it out. What's your advice to folks that maybe are interested in this but don't know how to connect with a group and start a game? Like what would be your advice?
I have no idea. Because you need the DM. You need in my opinion, an experienced DM to kind of at least get you in the right direction. I consider myself reasonably bright, but there's no way, in my opinion, I could have just picked up the Dungeon Master's Guide, a player's handbook, and said, "Hey guys, let's play this game." I think it's too complicated. Now it's difficult because it's like, I want everybody to try this and have this experience, but then out of the other side of my mouth is, well, unless you can find a DM, you can't do this. And that's not what I'm saying either. It's just, your best bet, I think, is probably your local hobby shop. If you've got one, if they sell miniatures, if they sell anything tabletop game related, that's going to be the place where you can, maybe they host a game on a Sunday afternoon and they invite newcomers. Our local shop here, Griffin's Rest in Muskegon, does Wednesday night magic, and it's just, you just go and learn how to play magic. And I guarantee you there's lots of other places doing that with all forms of gaming, and that might be a great place to start. But yeah, I was fortunate because I fell into somebody, and now having met all of you, I can look and I can reach out to somebody that can DM a game and go, "Hey, would you be willing to do this?" and probably not have too much of an issue. But we take that for granted. And we've said that 100 times, that even just the toy collecting community that we have, is insane. There's a lot of people out there that collect toys and don't have anybody anywhere near them. And we've got 40 guys within a half an hour of us that will come and hang out at the podcast or come to Grand Rapids and, do a toy swap party. And, we do pool parties in the summertime that are all toy related, which is ridiculous because it should be surrounded by bikinis, but it's not. It's 6-inch action figures, and we've talked, ad nauseum on our show about how fortunate we are to have the community that we have. But yeah, I think that's probably your best bet. The other thing too is Facebook, man. Search, Dungeons and Dragons groups near me. And I guarantee you there's groups out there where people are looking for a pickup game and like I said, and maybe it's one of these things where, maybe just Shelve it says, hey, I'm going to run a newcomers game and you're going to do it on StreamYard and you bring in 5-6 people and do a game and everybody turns on and watches it. And, maybe it becomes a thing, who knows? But, I would love to play more. That's the hardest part is it's time that not everybody has, and that's what makes it really, really difficult when you can get into a group like you've got, Jesse, where you can kind of get that regular date, that's the kicker, Derek Ayers, everybody's favorite Facebook troll, him and Eric Bertram for the longest time, again, like every other Saturday or every third Saturday. And it was it got to the point where, that was what you did that night. Like, hey, every other Friday we're playing D&D. Once it becomes routine like that, it makes it a lot easier because it's part of your life. The routine aspect of it is really where you get that running room. And then here you are 8 years later, still playing with the same group and wrapping up and, being emotionally devastated that you're going to say goodbye to this character, so.
Well, the rogue, he got trapped in the astral sea because he was reaching into a bag and the bag pulled him in. So he was trapped in the astral sea for a good part of a year. So I had to re-roll a whole new character halfway through our campaign that I didn't know how to play because it was a whole new class and everything. So yeah, it was a good 7 to 8 months before they were able to rescue my character from the astral sea.
That's awesome.
And he shows up with like a new beard and missing an arm.
Well, the funny thing is everyone else, they were in this other plane, the Feywild, and we play in Eberron.
Okay.
So when they came back, they made a deal with these hags to send them back because one of our characters destroyed the portal that took us there. So they had to make a deal with these hags, but my character wasn't involved in the deal. So when they came back, everybody aged 25 years.
Oh, geez. Except your character.
Except my character, because I was in the astral sea. But when I came back, because I was there so long, like my body had atrophied. So I lost like a constitution point and a dexterity point or something. So there was consequences to it. But while you're talking, I'm not committing to anything yet, but if there was a way to get a couple people together to try, we'll start with some folks in the chat tonight. If we can pick some time and get something going. I've done some DMing. I would not call myself an expert, but
yeah, definitely sign me up. I'd be interested. I think the good point that Pete makes there is that you got to make connections in your community. I mean, I think that one good thing that the Michigan guys have done is really found out what other people in their area do the same things as them, collect toys, watch, Marvel movies, and do these things so that, they can get together as a group and they have these great toy swaps and hangouts and things like that. And, I know for me, like, I don't know anyone around this area that collects toys. I'm sure there are some, but I just don't know them and I haven't made those connections. So I think if you're interested in like a D&D thing or something like that, you got to, start talking to people. If you go to a toy show, you go to a comic shop or hobby shop, start talking to people and make those connections. So
where are you guys from again?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis. Okay.
Yeah. I'm about 7 hours away from Michigan because I've looked at, Muskegon, which is coming up. So I know we want to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those where I'm like, it's close enough that I'm considering it, but it's still one of those I got to think about. So So
I gotta say this.
Go ahead.
I gotta comment on this. Sean saying certain, which I know is totally tongue in cheek coming from him, because he and I joined three other guys on a show last night doing like Mythic Legions class education, because they're all new to the line, and we ended up running for over 3 hours. But we were hanging out in the lunchroom at Intern for a Day, and I can't remember who he was talking to. We were talking to someone, and he was talking about going to art school, and then Cameron is just walking by across, through the hallway to go out to the main area or whatever. Cameron from the studio, and Sean's talking about going to art school, and he just goes nerd as he walks by, and everybody lost it.
Cameron is an incredible painter, man. Incredible.
Yeah,
great.
he's-
I really enjoyed talking to him at Intern. That was cool. So you want to talk to us a little bit about MesquiCon, like how that started and what's going on in the event for this year?
Yeah. So, I started doing these shows with Trav, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Traverse City. And I'm looking around, and I'm not a vendor, I don't sell. I just would go to the shows and hang out and help sell and help set up, tear down, all that stuff. And I got to looking in the geography of Michigan. If somebody was going to do an event in kind of the next biggest city that didn't have a convention, it was going to be Muskegon, and we're 10 minutes from there. That's our metro area. And I got to thinking, I'm like, if I don't do this, somebody's going to. I might as well be the guy. And we were actually camping. Me and it was actually the Bulls and the Bashottis and the McCarthys. We were all camping. And I said, I think I'm going to and it was funny because that's how the podcast started. We were camping, and Steve's like, "Yeah, man, I want to be doing a podcast. Well, let's do a podcast then. You in? Yeah, I'll do it." And Trav goes, "Yeah, I would do that." So we literally picked up our phone and ordered podcast equipment, and it was on the porch when we got home from camping. And now here we are, 7 years, and 270 numbered episodes later. And so the next year we're camping, and I'm going to do a comic book convention, Comics and Toys in Muskegon. They're like, okay. And we had another drink and sat by the fire. And 2 weeks later, I booked a venue. And now here we are 5 years in. And we moved next door. They just finished a new convention center. Previously, we've been in the Delta by Marriott. It's four rooms that open up into one big room. It's about 5,000 square feet. And then there's some additional small rooms, like little meeting rooms that I would rent as well. This year, so far, I've gotten 2 of the 3 rooms. So we're at about 10,000 square feet this year. And one of the things we didn't do last year post-COVID was we didn't have any panels. We didn't have any gaming. It was just strictly vendors. This year we're bringing all that back. So we're bringing back the cosplay, all the Star Wars Ghostbusters cosplay. And we're going to do cosplay contest again. We're bringing back all the panels. And then I'm working with our local hobby shop to do a gaming room. So all of his gaming stuff, all of his LARP weaponry and all that, he'll kind of have his own kind of base of operations out of the hustle and bustle of the main vendor hall, where you can sit and try games and buy games and play games. And so we should be kind of back to normal, only bigger is the hope. The 4 Horsemen were supposed to be there last year. Unfortunately, due to travel restrictions, they weren't able to make it. This year, they want to participate in some capacity, and I didn't officially know what that capacity was until this morning on YouTube when Cornboy jumped into the chat and said, "Hey, I'm going to be there for sure." And I said, "Well, I'd love to hear that." So we'll definitely do something with them. There is some chatter about potentially trying to do a miniature Michigan Mythic get together, whether it be Friday night or Saturday night. And for anybody who's potentially interested, obviously the Horsemen are going to be there, or at least one of the Horsemen are going to be there. So yeah, we're looking to get bigger and better. It's grown organically over the last 4 years. Even with COVID, I was a little nervous last year about attendance and about vendors, but we sold out immediately for vendors, and we had great participation through the door again. So a lot of people asking when it's going to become a 2-day show. A lot of people asking when it was going to move into a bigger venue. We've just been trying to take it slow. I think going too big too soon is the easy way to kill a con before it ever reaches maturity. So I think we've made some pretty smart choices in that aspect. But yeah, hopefully this is going to be our biggest and best year yet. And then that will be able to hopefully spring us into that third room. So we'll be at a full 15,000 square foot plus lobby area. And then eventually we'll, like I said, go to a 2-day show, make it a full weekend. And we're not big enough, in my opinion, to do 2 days. I mean, you can only walk around a venue that size so much. Legions Con was such a different animal than what we do because everybody was showing up to Legions Con to hang out. You know what I mean? It wasn't a standard go in, see everything, and then leave. It was a stay and play more than it was a kind of open house style. And there's not 2 days worth of stuff, in my opinion, at MesquiteCon. Just again, geographically, it wasn't big enough. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll probably get to that point where it would be worth it to be to have the 2 full days. So anxious to see how it goes. But we already booked. One Facebook post is all I've put out, letting everybody know that we've moved to the new convention center. I sent out emails to returning vendors, and I've gotten a huge sum of them back already. And we've already added 10 or 12 new vendors that have never vended with us before. And like I said, that's based off one Facebook that said, hey, we're moving to the new convention center. It's March 11th. If you're interested in being a vendor, email mesquitecon@gmail.com. So with very little trying, it's there. People want it. So it's now just making sure that we provide a nice space for them to peddle their wares, and we make it a fun day, and they leave there with some money in their pocket and hopefully less boxes to load up and enough that makes them want to come back next year.
It seems to me, I know, like from Legions Con, and I heard some stories from PowerCon and stuff, that a lot of the toy shows now, it's the show is great and people enjoy going and looking at toys and this and that. But one of the big things I hear is about the people that you meet and talk to and hanging out after the show. And so for those people that would be interested in possibly traveling to Michigan to attend MesquiteCon, what does that look like? Is there a hotel venue that would be kind of the go-to venue? And what do you anticipate, post show, kind of hangout looking like?
Yeah. So the Delta by Marriott, so where we were before at that hotel with the small convention rooms, is attached to this new convention center. So we still would be staying at the Delta Marriott, and it's right downtown Muskegon. So back when I was a kid, it was actually, this section of town was actually a mall. The mall kind of went under. So what they did was they kind of tore the roof off of it and kind of made it back and like into kind of an original downtown again. And there's no less than 6 or 7 bars down there. A lot of them are like microbreweries and distilleries. Pigeon Hill and Unruly are 2 big time breweries that are down there. I met with the manager of Unruly last year. We're working on doing kind of a post MesquiteCon type party. They typically have a band play that Saturday night, and they even talked about maybe doing like a superhero themed beer for the event and kind of doing some cross promotion. So that'll be an option, most likely Saturday night. And then depending on Friday night, there is a setup available in the convention center. And we talked about potentially using the panel room that night before for people that want to come in, stay the night, do the show, setting up a little meet and greet in that area of the hotel. The hotel has a full restaurant and a full bar right there. There's plenty of room, so there'd be a lot of similarities to Legions Con if we wanted to do it. We definitely have the running room. In fact, there's quite a bit more space there compared to Legions Con because they do have a huge restaurant there. So there, I hope that especially the people like you, that is old man Kyle, the hope is that those people that are going to drive 6-7 hours, that are going to make the trip 11 hours from St. Louis or whatever it is, there'll be hopefully plenty to do that isn't just the show. We can make it more about that. But we have, I mean, there's 20, 25 of us that grab dinner at the hotel every Friday, before the show. And we've done that since its inception. And like I said, Saturday night I only live 15 minutes from there, but my wife and I stay Friday and Saturday night just because I don't want to go home. After the show, we want to hang out. We want to get dinner. We want to have drinks. And then, we kind of sleep there, and then we just make our way home Sunday morning. So plenty to do for entertainment. And like I said, everything's within walking distance. You can literally park at the hotel and you won't need your car till you go home. So again, hopefully that entices some people to, it'll be worth the 5 hours, and there'll be a room block going up as well. They don't really offer a discount. I mean, I think it's like $5 off the room. Like, they don't really do. It's not like it's cheaper in the room block, but at least I can secure some rooms. And so if you need rooms, let me know. We can make all that happen. But looking forward to it. The social aspect is why we do this in the first place. I work my ass off most of the day at MesquiCon, and it's nice to kick my feet back with everybody Saturday night and have a beverage and, so listen to how great I am and how I did another great show, because I'm amazing. And, you can't never get enough of that, right?
So as we get closer to the event and people are wanting to know about, room blocks and tickets for sale and things like that, where do they need to stay in touch with in order to get that information?
MesquiCon on Facebook is the best way. All the information goes through there. All our social media is the main event. You can always email MesquiCon at gmail.com. For those of you that don't know, Muskegon is the city. MesquiCon, it's just Muskegon with a C instead of a G. And in my head, it was a little bit more clever when I came up with it, and it's terribly not informative as to what the event is. So that's why all the flyers say MesquiCon, toy and comic convention. But yeah, the Facebook, geez, oh Pete, Facebook is always you can tell I've been sitting in this chair for 9 hours into this microphone today, but yeah, Facebook is the best place for it. And then, like I said, when we'll put the room block information out there. You can actually just call, say, hey, I'm with MesquiCon. You can do your reservation that way as well. So
cool.
Awesome. As I say, getting to PowerCon this summer and just the way that was with hanging out with everybody, like going to dinner with all you guys Saturday night. I know we were at like different tables, so
yeah.
But that was cool. And then hanging out in that hotel, and Pixel Dan and those guys were making their kids play with the toys or whatever,
right,
over behind us, but just hanging out there was just so much fun. So I was really looking for it. Like RetroCon, we had a little bit of that, and then of course Legions Con was
right,
insane.
It was funny because I was talking to my wife earlier. We watched My Wife Is Going to Kill Me this morning, and then you said that you were going off to play D&D, and then we had this show tonight, and she was like, how's Pete gonna have anything left to talk about after all that? And I'm like, well, kind of one of those, like, that's my secret, Captain. Pete's always talking, like,
right. And it's funny too, because obviously there's a lot of crossover. I'm watching some of the people in the chat, and I know a lot of these folks, and I've hung out with a lot of these folks, and getting to meet these people in real life, that's what's great about these events, man. In Legions Con, let's be honest, Legions Con in the grand scheme of conventions, that's a unicorn. I mean, there's really nothing like that, but it all has to do with the specialty, right? It's you're talking about this conglomeration of people that have all these different interests, and we've whittled it down to just one interest. Everybody there is kind of like-minded in that vein. And I think that breeds kind of that camaraderie that you see there at that event. And anytime you can recreate that, even on a smaller scale, honestly, one of the hardest things it's been for us is, we used to do these shows and they'd be like, hey, who's doing dinner? Okay, there's 8 of us. And we would go and we would have dinner. And now we get ready to go. Like you said, Jesse, there's so many people that we go to dinner with now. We can't even sit at the same table. Like we're in these big cities, and we're, or bigger cities at least. There's no place you can roll in at 9:00 on a Friday night and get a table for 30, And so like, that was what was cool about Legions Con is we were like F meals, man. We hit Jersey Mike's and we hit Domino's, quick, easy, and just got our asses back to the hotel to spend time with everybody. Cause like I said, there's no sitting down with 35 anymore. And when we did the night at the Bonefish Grill, they refused to split the check. So there was 35 people on one check, and we're like, this is a nightmare, but
I agree with you.
That's when you just get Nate to pay for it, right?
Right. Yeah. And what was funny is Nate did buy one of our meals, and he wouldn't even take the checkup. He actually had one of his servants do it for him. It was pretty embarrassing. So
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Legions Con is the number one go-to event, but I think it's also cool that these folks that we've gotten to know in this community. It's like that once a year isn't enough. Like we need to see each other more often, and like just the fact that you went to a Power Con. And I know it's not just strictly He-Man anymore, but as much as you've ragged on He-Man over the years with Jeremy and Steve,
I ragged on him this morning.
To see you go to a PowerCon event was like, okay, this is cool. Like, and yeah, if we could get a bunch of folks up to MesquiCon, I think that would be really cool just to hang out with everybody and yeah, that would be nice. So,
well, the interviews I did at PowerCon too, man, it was. We interviewed NECA and Beasts of the Mesozoic and Tweeterhead and the Animal Warriors of the Animal Kingdom, and of course, and others as well. But there was a ton for me to do at PowerCon because again, opening it up outside of Motu, I went to PowerCon for you guys. Like I went to hang out and see people and meet people, and it was all social for me. There ended up being a lot more for me to do because of how PowerCon has kind of changed their focal point. But that's become a show that I won't miss. I honestly haven't done Grand Rapids Comic Con in a couple of years. That used to be our staple. I haven't done Motor City in Detroit in a couple of years. With the time and money is what it comes back to, and I would rather do a Power Con. I'd rather do a Legions Con. Now, granted, at Legions Con, I mean, again, that's the farthest trip that we take, but it's one of the most rewarding ones. I mean, who in their right mind flies from Europe into New Jersey, where the convention is, to get on a plane, to fly to Michigan, to get in a van and drive back to New Jersey where they just got off an airplane, and
I can think of two people.
Right.
Yeah,
at least one.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Emil and Tomas, did that this year, and it was absolutely awesome to be able to spend time with them, here in Michigan, and then of course, the ride out, and then that whole thing, and we're getting to the point now where it's like we need to rent a bus. There was. Yeah. We took 4 vehicles from Michigan last year. 6 vehicles from Michigan to Legions Con. I'm like, why are we not on a charter bus, man? It's open intox are allowed, plenty of cargo space underneath for everybody's stuff, and we're seriously considering trying to pull something like that off for this next one because it just makes sense, especially if as we're cruising through Ohio, we can pick up some of the Ohio boys. We'll roll into. I'll roll into New Jersey 30 deep, tanked off my ass. That'll be a good time.
As long as we get a couple live streams while you guys are stuck in traffic, we're good.
Well, and then you don't have to worry about any of you guys doing the driving. You've got the driver. You know.
Right. Yep. And so we'll see. Like I said, I got a feeling that won't be cheap. But when you put, you figure 6 vehicles worth of fuel, that adds up quick, especially in today's society. So
I wasn't able to make it to PowerCon, but one of the things that I really enjoyed from watching the videos, I know I saw one that the Legion's Lair guys were doing, and they were just kind of walking around showing the different tables and stuff. And at one point they showed Corn Boy, and he was at a table and he was totally just like fanning out over toys. Like he was looking at these things and asking questions, and to see somebody that you look up to as a toy creator and just see that they are that nerding out and just excited about toys themselves. It was just kind of cool. So
Oh, it absolutely is, and they're like, but that I think that's what makes them great creators because they truly are fans, and they have been fans, um, and regardless of what a lot of people want to say, there's not a company out there that cares about their fans more than they do, and you can see it in how they do every single aspect of their business. And like I said, it's because they're just regular Joes that like Cornboy says, try not to suck, and they're so humble in everything that they do, and like I said, they're regular Joes. One of the best compliments that we've ever gotten about the podcast was from Cornboy, and it literally was, I feel like I'm back home with my asshole buddies talking. And that was the environment to him that we created with our podcast. And that's because, again, we're all just regular Joes. We're nerding out over the same things. It's a bunch of like-minded people getting together and enjoying the company. I mean, there was zero drama that entire weekend at Legions Con. Zero drama, well, maybe one,
very
maybe,
little, very little.
maybe one, but at the end of the day, it was just, I honestly, I don't think I stopped smiling that whole weekend. And if I wasn't smiling, I was laughing my ass off because we just had a freaking blast the entire time.
It was a great time. I will be offering babysitting services next year for anybody that has a little bit too much to drink. Just hit me up and I'll just kind of hang out with you in the lobby and make sure you get to bed okay. So
yeah, aren't we putting up aren't you going to put up like a pen area to make sure they stay in?
Like the little kids to play in the area, don't get out.
Get a little drop off ticket.
Yeah.
I'll bring my kid's old pack and play for him.
There you go.
We'll just put him in there, and
so let's take a little turn here. What kind of things have you been watching lately that you're excited about? You got any shows or movies that you've seen that you'd like to discuss?
Actually, this was a huge surprise to me. Wednesday, on Netflix. The Addams Family character Wednesday. My wife's always been a huge Addams Family fan, and so I watched the show with her, and the kids, all of us, we fell in love with it, and we burned through the whole thing in a matter of like 3 days. And it was incredibly well written. It's incredibly acted. The CGI, I mean, just everything about it. I mean, it's Tim Burton, so I mean, we've obviously come to expect a certain level from him. But no, it was kind of a sleeper to me. I thought, oh, I'll probably enjoy this. No, I absolutely loved it, man. It was great. So, but I started It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, based on Jeremy's recommendation. And that is, it's like watching a school bus fire. The other show that I just finished last week and I watched all of it, all 3 seasons, was The Orville.
Okay.
And that was, you know what, honestly, one of my favorite shows ever. I've always been a big Seth MacFarlane fan, and I've always been a huge Family Guy fan. I think he's hilarious. I think he's crazy talented, but The Orville was just next level. I've never watched Star Trek, but I've had so many people tell me that it's the best Star Trek they've ever seen. But when you think about people's level of creativity and you look at what they do with that, creating an entire universe and telling us what happened to the Earth 400 years from now and how we fit in to this whole galactic alliance. And you have to create planets, and you have to create entire races, and you have to create entire time frames from which where those planets are in evolution. And I just, holy shit, man, it was impressive, just top to bottom impressive. So
have you watched that, Curtis?
I have not watched Orville.
Okay.
I started watching Wednesday. I'm about halfway through that season. Agree with everything Pete said. I love it. When I saw the previews initially, I think I was stuck on the casting decisions. Like I was looking at it like, this isn't the Addams Family I know, kind of thing. But I sat down and gave it a chance, and it's really good. And everybody in there plays a fantastic role. I think it's great. Me and my wife are loving that. As far as Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I've gotten to the point where my wife can sit through a My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast without cringing, but I don't know that she's quite ready for Always Sunny. Like that's a little like if My Wife Is Going to Kill Me is here, Always Sunny is kind of a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
It is over the top. And I was watching it before bed. My wife likes to read before bed, and so sometimes I'll pop a show on and you'll watch a couple episodes, and she literally something will catch her attention, and like I'll see the light go off her face as she lays her phone down, and then she'll chuckle and then realize like she shouldn't find it funny, and then it's kind of like, oh, that's terrible. You know what I mean? And but yeah, the topics, I actually texted Trav because Trav originally told me about it. I didn't realize it was started from Jeremy, and I texted him and I basically said, you know, that I listed the topics of the first 4 episodes, and I'm like, what else are they going to do? It's 4 episodes in, and they literally have touched on everything that would be considered difficult or taboo or inappropriate or offensive or everything, and then they pretend to be in wheelchairs to pick up women. And okay, they're gonna keep this going down this offensive line, you know.
Yeah, they do nothing to try to make you think that like these are the heroes of a story. Like
No.
It's like these are we just keep watching, like you said, you know, we just keep watching this dumpster fire of a group of friends running a bar, and you know what?
You wait for a redemption story that you know is not coming. You know what I mean? Like that aha moment where they realize they can be better people. I don't foresee that happening. So
yeah, they make your podcast kind of look like a bunch of choir boys. So
and that's
which is impressive.
So
I'm gonna circle back to Orville without getting too deep into it since you haven't watched it, Curtis. But I was excited when I heard you mention that you started watching it, Pete, and then I think I messaged you a couple of weeks later to ask, and it didn't seem like at that point it sounded like you weren't too impressed with it at that point. But you've made it all the way through, and
oh, dude, I was probably 1 episode after our conversation where it didn't take me long. I was at the very onset when you and I spoke. And if I remember correctly, I was at the very onset, and I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how this is going to be. And then it was, I don't know, next episode, 2 episodes, it was like head over heels, and then I just couldn't get enough of it. So like literally ignoring the wife and kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wife gets out of the bathtub, parades through the bedroom, and I'm like, honey, you're in my way. I'm watching my show, you know? So
and see, I was a big fan of Star Trek growing up. I liked the original series. I liked Next Generation, even Deep Space Nine. And then I kind of died off after that. I think I saw Voyager was a good series. So when Orville first came out, I think I watched like 1 episode, and I'm like, this is what it's going to be. They're going to be basically making fun of the shows that I liked, you know, as a kid. And so I never really got past the first episode. So, but I probably need to revisit that and kind of give it more of a chance.
When you watch it, you realize that, yes, there is the Seth MacFarlane humor aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you watch it, the more you realize he does everything out of his love for the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically it's just him putting his little twist to make it his own. And I really think that he's a fan. You know, we talk about, you know, and you look at it and you're like, you watch this and you go, wow, this guy tried really, really hard. He is a fan of Star Trek. He's a fan of this genre. But I will say, season 1 and 2 were on Fox. Season 3 was direct to Hulu. Because that's where it got picked up. Season 3 does get, it gets quite a bit more serious. There's still funny parts, but there isn't as much as the humor that there was in the first 2 seasons. But they in that show too, they tackle a lot of subjects that are difficult in American society, but they do it. And it's, you know, we have this topic of, you know, people being anti, you know, same-sex relationships. Well, but it's a different race of people, and it's the same issue, but they're doing it under the guises of, you know, it's the X-Men, right? It's the X-Men is about, you know, treating people differently because they're different. And it's the same issues we've had, but the difference is it's not the color of your skin, it's not your sexual orientation, it's not your religion, it's the fact that you have wings or you can set things on fire. It's a substitute for real issues that we face in our country right now, and he does that masterfully. And you look at it and you go, I understand these people are Mocklin, that's their race, and they're dark brown and they look like pieces of rock, but they have these same issues. And he pulls zero punches as to how he feels about those subjects. And he does it in a way that you're like, I know exactly where he stands on this issue. And he brings it into the show, but it doesn't take any of the value away from it. It's bloody genius as far as I'm concerned.
So would you say that he's able to address those topics without making it feel like he's beating you up with it, or
absolutely,
is it something that Steven would rant about, or is it something that Steven would appreciate?
Well, I mean, so to give you a little snapshot, it's and they deal with it throughout all 3 seasons. The Mocklin race are all male.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, if one is born a female, that goes against their culture, and they surgically are repaired to be fixed because they were born broken. And okay, well, when you look at, it's Mocklins, it's aliens, this is how, and it's the idea of, well, this is how you as a human from Earth don't get to tell us what's right with how we do things on our planet. And again, it's the same debates that people have around the dinner table and different things, but it's done in the background of this intergalactic. And he basically says, hey, this is right and this is wrong, but he doesn't stuff it down your throat, and you can look past it and enjoy the entire show for what it is, even if you want to glance over those social topics and just take it for entertainment value. He does that too. So it's like, hey, I love this show, it's entertaining. Hey, I love this show, it's entertaining, plus I love that there's depth to it if I choose to look at it from that perspective,
Yeah,
that's cool.
And they do it with, like you said, they do have the humor that runs throughout it. It definitely did see a little less fun in the funny in the 3rd season, but like they were dealing with a lot more serious storylines in that arc.
Yep.
But yeah, just the fact that they and it's not like there's a lot of issues like that specific one with the Mocklins. Like it's a lot of really prevalent social and all this stuff, and they work it in really well because it's their culture, it's their planet, and they're part of this alliance. The people of the humans from Earth, like they can't just be like, well, you can't do that because they're in an alliance. So like they have all these political actual intergalactic political issues that keep it. Yeah, it feels very like people saying very strongly focused, but not overbearing. Like,
so how many seasons are there total now?
3.
Just 3. Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, it's one of those shows that I can't wait for it to drop. Like I would literally take time off from work to binge watch the whole next season. So it's just that good. So, and nowadays too, because of our exposure to everything, right? And we get saturated with everything. It's very difficult for me sometimes to not see what's coming. Wednesday was a great example of there's a swerve, and I love it. Now, I had things figured out. I was right and I was wrong. I was right about what it was, but I was wrong about who it was. And in today's society, when you can make somebody like me who, first off, is cocky as hell and thinks he knows everything, and I can see it when I'm surprised. That's a slow clap, standing ovation, because you got me. And I think that's hard to do with everybody now because we have seen so much. We all remember the first time. We all remember Game of Thrones. Well, what do you mean? That was a main character. Like you can't kill a main character. That's not a thing, when you go back to even like Sons of Anarchy and, some of these shows that started to kind of break the mold, nobody's safe anymore. And I love that because now I can watch a show and I'm like, I'm gonna fall in love with this person. They better not. Oh my God, they killed him. How does that happen? The guy gets the girl, the hero saves the day. Blah. That's not our entertainment anymore. They're doing a better job getting us hooked in and creating this originality now that is keeping us entertained, because they have to, because we have seen it all.
And it's interesting that kind of brings me back to Mythic Legions and the Four Horsemen. Everybody's always expecting stuff to like subvert expectations, and we don't have to get into the drama like deeply about this, because I know there was some, but with the figure obscura, a lot of people really wanted the brutal barbarian guy, and that's a valid request, but based on what we've seen from figure obscura so far, didn't seem like the way it would go. So I like that when you don't subvert expectations, you're subverting expectations now.
Right. One of my best friends in he's been on the show. His name is Mike Smith. He was the one, in fact, in the support group, everybody was throwing their support. He was on a ventilator during COVID. We almost lost him. We were talking to him about I was talking about Father Christmas. He stopped by the station this last week, and I said, Jordy. Goes, yeah. He goes, it's a great figure. He goes, it wasn't the one that I would have picked. He goes, I was envisioning like Rise of the Guardian Santa, naughty and nice tattoos on the forearm, and I'm like, that would be super cool, And we had this conversation about the figure and about what it could have been and what it was and what it wasn't. And he was very happy with the figure. He was glad to purchase it. He's glad to have it in his collection. It wasn't what I was envisioning when I thought of my Santa, but he was still happy. What we've done is we've created an avenue for everybody to tell us how unhappy they are about certain things. And it brings me down in particular, because I can't scroll, because I have a problem. Because just like all those people that feel their opinion is important, I feel that my snarky response to them is important when it's really not. But that's a classic example of, name one figure that you know of that they've ever released that hasn't sold out in the first half hour. That figure's still available today.
Yeah.
Some are like, that's a swing and a miss by the Horseman. A ton of people are loving it. I think it's an amazing figure. And if for no other reason, now every year when we decorate at Christmas, my wife will put Father Christmas up on the mantle, and there's Mythic Legions in our Christmas decorations. Mm-hmm. That's a win, I don't understand how people get so upset about that kind of thing. And in the same token, I don't understand how I get upset about them being upset,
That's my problem. Like, I preach, when somebody throws out something negative like that, just leave it alone, because the more you comment, the more you this and that, it throws it up at the top, and that's what everybody sees. But sometimes I just can't help it. Like, I saw the post this week, and guys complaining about the hand peg broke. And you know what? Sometimes that stuff will happen, but the company that we're talking about, Four Horsemen, I've seen nothing but spectacular customer service response. When you reach out to them and say, hey, I had this issue, they take care of it. But when people decide to just go straight to Facebook and complain about it to everybody and put them on blast, and I should just leave it alone and I shouldn't say anything. But then I end up, going back and forth with people, and it's like, I got to tell myself, like, hey, just don't engage with those folks. Like,
Or I'm going to pop this up here, because this is where I'm with you, Chris. I generally want to not engage, but there was one I saw about, like, this isn't the Mythic Legion Santa I expected. And I'm like, anyone that's talked to me knows, I don't think I come across as the type of person that's like, well, no, you're wrong. And I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I try to be helpful. So I was just like, well, it's technically figure obscura, which is not Mythic Legions. Use the same parts, but it's not from Mythos. And, but like engaging with the empathy, or, that's the way I go. And kind of circling back, I really want to bring this one up. Masterversal Toy Hunter says the Mocklin issue with converting children born female to male is a theme that hit him personally because of having autism and the stigma that those like them he has in the autism community face. And then he says organizations engaged in conversion therapy of those lost in autism to make us suit society's norms and mental processing, which that was a lot of stuff. That was a lot to read, but that's, yeah, a show like that to be able to address that and bring these things to people's minds that
That's
maybe
a
never
good
thought
call
about
out, and Wednesday actually addresses some of that too. I don't want to give away the storyline, but there's a part with a girl that's a werewolf that kind of addresses something like that, and I thought they did it in a way that it didn't feel like they were preachy, but
Right.
you see that interaction between her and her parents, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of crappy that
Well, and
somebody would do that.
and that's
You know?
that's an issue within an issue, because the
Yeah.
underlying issue of all of it is normies versus outcasts,
Mhm.
which is just, it doesn't matter what divides us. You can implement, whether it's in the Mocklin situation in the Orville, or that situation in Wednesday, or even again the X-Men reference from earlier. You can input all of these social issues into that category, and it's the same result. It's people being treated differently because they don't look, sound, act, love the same way that you do. And that language is universal for all of us. Every one of us has had something that makes us a little bit different from everybody else. And circle back to D&D, something as small as, I remember what I thought of D&D people when I was in school. The running joke about the toy collectors being in the in their living in their mother's basement and all that stuff like that. That's not near the amount of stigma that a lot of people face with the real issues, but we did it with something as simple as toy collectors or D&D players. You know what I mean? And it's the jocks and the nerds and the preps and all this stuff that we've always had. And I love that people are using their platforms on such a large scope to address those issues, but doing it in a way where there's true entertainment value. And guess what? Maybe they're even disguising it a little bit for us, because we look and go, man, I cannot believe that they would treat those people that way just because they're witches or they're outcasts. And then you're like, wait a minute. What about the way we treat these people because of this, or this in the real world?
Yeah.
And if one person opens their eyes and goes, man, this they're speaking to real world here, and that's a win outside of the entertainment side of things. So,
Well, and I think it goes back to just treating everybody with love and kindness and being nice to one another, and that's really what this time of year is all about. And just kind of as a segue there, like, I've heard, Peter, that you're kind of a Christmas guy, like you like this time of year.
I do.
So, what are your kind of favorite things to do, whether it's traditions or movies to watch, around Christmas time?
Well, we're having a little bit of a family conundrum right now. So I'm so excited about having all my siblings in town. So my brother and his fiance live in California. My sister, her husband, and their new son live in Colorado. And then I've got a brother here in Grand Rapids. They're all coming home, and I'm over the moon about that. I cannot wait to see them. It's just, that's the big part of this year for me, is I get my family back for a little while. My first Christmas with EJ, little Emerson James, my brand new nephew. And I'm feeling like a hypocrite, because when my wife and I first had our daughter, Chloe, I was very adamant about going places with her for the holidays. No. We've got a baby. You guys come to us, right? You guys don't have to pack up a baby and take her out in the cold. And so now here we are 20 years later, and my sister's like, hey, we'd like to do Christmas at our Airbnb, because of Emerson. And I'm like, no, we have Christmas at our house. That's the way it's supposed to be. And then I have to remember, like, no, Pete, you remember what it was like 20 years ago with the baby. So I said, okay, one condition, there has to be a tree. My new nephew is not having his first Christmas without a tree. So of course my wife saved the day. She's going to bring the tree from her salon. So we have a tree there, because I wasn't going to let him have Christmas without a tree. But that's what it's always been for us, as the family side of things. And with both my parents being gone, I do feel like there's a kind of a sense of responsibility as the oldest sibling to try to, kind of make sure people are coming together a little bit. And whether that's real or not. But my wife is hardcore family and always has been. And her family and my family were very similar in the way that we spent time together and did the holidays together. So that kind of merged really, really well. My wife loves entertaining and loves having people over, and she loves cooking, although she's not always great at it. So sorry, she's in bed. So, but no, that's what it is. And my birthday is the 20th of December. So it was always, a little bit extra special. Yes, I always got outshined by Jesus, because his birthday was a little bit more important. But what's really funny is my mother always made it a point to make sure that my birthday was my day, and it didn't get blended into Christmas. And my wife is the exact same way. The 20 years we've been together, it's always very important to her that we do birthday stuff on my birthday and whatnot. And so yeah, and I love the snow and I love the decorations and I love all that. It's that kind of, like I said, there's something about this time of year that I've just always really enjoyed, and it comes from my parents. We were always Christmas people growing up. So yeah, I'm taking 2 weeks off from work, so that'll be fun.
Wow. Cool.
And just so I got comp time just burning a hole in my pocket. So I'm going to take time off, and I'm still going to run calls, and there's still stuff I have to do, obviously, but I'm not going to report to the office in my uniform every day at 7 like I normally do. And so I'll spend as much time as I can with them. And I've actually been collecting parts and pieces. I'm putting together a D&D game for my kids. My two youngest kids really enjoy playing. And I actually got the huge ship.
Nice.
And then I just recently got the little rowboat, and I got a red Sal for a big villain, and I just ordered a bunch of little Sahuagins, which are like merfolk people. So I'm kind of putting this together so we can kind of do like a big one-shot game with them. And there's nothing warms my heart more than the look on my now 8-year-old daughter's face when she just cuts a goblin into 2 pieces. It's just it's a great fatherly moment, you know what I mean? So but so yeah, all of it, man. Like I said, it comes down to the people. The holidays for me are just like the cons. There's a lot of great stuff. Yeah, the gifts are cool, and I love giving gifts. I always have. But like I said, you surround yourself with the right people, and it's always a great time of year. But we got to have snow.
Yeah.
I can't get in the spirit without snow. So
do you guys typically have snow for Christmas in Michigan?
Typically, I'd say 1 in 10 years we have a green Christmas. But
are there any specific like family traditions that your family does, like anything that stands out as something that's just you've always done as a kid that you've now passed on to your kids, or have you just developed your own new ones in your own family with your wife?
A little bit of both. So my dad always made Christmas breakfast. That was his thing. And then as got older, got to our own, we Christmas Eve is with my in-laws and my wife's siblings and their kids. And then Christmas morning was always my parents and my siblings. And so dad would always make breakfast, and my brother Adam and I have kind of taken up that mantle since he's been gone. So Christmas breakfast is a big deal for us. But my wife has started some. What? She did make breakfast last year. My wife just corrected me. I apologize. So I'm sorry I didn't make breakfast. I was too busy mourning the loss of my father, but thanks for bringing that up. I could hear her roll her eyes through my headphones. But my wife has actually started a few different traditions. One is Christmas PJs. She buys everybody new pajamas, Christmas themed pajamas, Christmas Eve night. So everybody goes to bed, and then we're in those all day on Christmas Day, which is awesome. We do with my siblings, we do a saran wrap ball. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that or not, but it's basically throughout the year, you put stuff and then you wrap it in saran wrap. So by the time you get to Christmas, it's this big. And so the game is everybody sits in a circle and you have oven mitts on. So you have to unwrap the ball, and the next person in line is rolling 2 dice. When they get doubles, you have to stop. Anything that falls out of the ball during your turn, you get to keep, and it just goes around until it's empty. And then everybody trades the stuff, but it's kind of a mix between cool stuff and a white elephant. In the center, there's always something cool, but there'll be like lottery tickets, either scratched losers or unscratched ones. There'll be like you'll get a gift card, be super excited excited about it, it'll be like $1.75 left on it, you know. But it's always, you know, gum and candy, and then there's little you know, we put little liquor bottles in there. The kids aren't allowed to have those, you know, until after 9 o'clock. So but yeah, so that's been a tradition that my wife and my brother kind of have gotten going for us. So that's been a fun time.
That's
But
cool.
so
Any go-to Christmas movie that's your, you know, really your jam?
my the Santa Claus 2 is probably my favorite, my all-time favorite Christmas movie. Alf is a big one. It's up there. Christmas Vacation is a classic and a favorite of mine. But if I only ever had one to watch ever again, it would be specifically the Santa Claus 2. There's something about that movie. But I am a diehard at Christmas time kind of guy. I'm not the one that's going to flood your Facebook about it and insist that it's a Christmas movie, but I do always watch it at Christmas time. Home Alone 1 is a staple. I really enjoy that. Home Alone 2, I'll never watch again. It's absolute dog shit. So a Christmas Story as an adult, we haven't really watched much. But yeah,
Did you see the new one?
No, I haven't yet. Hope it's on our list. We did, as far as new Christmas stuff goes, we just watched episodes 2 and 3 of the Santa Clauses tonight on Disney Plus, and that's pretty good. It's a little bit slow right now, but we watched Spirited on Apple TV with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
What do you think?
Well, initially I was kind of like, this is a musical. And I enjoy musical theater, but I'm not really into musical movies. But I hung in there and I really enjoyed it. And then they kicked me in the teeth. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be okay. Okay. No, okay, shit. And they swerved me good and hard. So I'll give them respect for that. But,
I might have to give it another chance. I tried to watch it this weekend and got about 10 minutes in, and me and the kids and everybody, we all looked at each other like, do we really want to listen to 2 hours of Will Ferrell singing? And we decided not to, and we went and watched Krampus instead.
Yeah, about I'd say probably 15, 20 minutes in, they actually make a joke about how it's too much singing, and then it pretty much switches to a regular movie with a little bit of music.
Gotcha.
But it's worth it. It's worth it to get it to the end. Now I will say, rewatchability 0.
Gotcha.
Like I enjoyed it. I really did, and I would recommend it to other people, but it will not go into the catalog of, oh, hey guys, let's watch Spirited. It's Christmas time.
Gotcha.
It doesn't have that vibe. So
Maverick wants to know what your thoughts on the Rankin Bass films.
What's Maverick's thought on explanation of what a Rankin Bass film is?
So that's like the stop motion.
Oh, like Heat Miser and Rudolph and stuff.
Year Without a Santa Claus.
Yeah. Meh. I mean, as a kid, I enjoyed them, but I don't really watch them. I remember them being kind of sad. Like they don't treat Frosty real well, and they make fun of Rudolph, and I just one thing I'll never ever watch ever is a Christmas Carol, like the Mickey Mouse one.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite ones. The Mickey Mouse one.
No, I'll just I don't enjoy crying. Like it's not I mean, just brutal. When he's slicing that pea, like I'm literally sitting there, and the way I lay on the couch, my belly is so big, like it's at the bottom of the television, and I always feel like terrible because I'm like, look at these people, they're splitting one pea, and look at how fat I am. Like I should have shared my food with Tiny Tim. So
we learned today that is like a national moment in Sweden where at 3 o'clock everybody watches the Disney Mickey's Christmas Carol.
Yeah, Emil shared that with us.
They're
like the
weird
whole country gets together and watches it at the same time.
It's like, there's just like a chime that goes off. It just rings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every year at Christmas, and everybody just turns on their TV. It's like Pan Am.
But you gotta, the one thing too, man, is you gotta remember, like, Swedes have kitchen couches.
Yeah.
They have a couch in their kitchen.
Okay.
Like it's a legit couch, and like it opens up, and they store pots and pans inside it, but it's a couch in their kitchen. So I don't know if we can trust their movie prowess, but yeah.
All right.
So,
did not know that.
I learned one of my full-time lieutenants at the department is from Sweden. So I'm constantly asking about Swedish stuff. I'm not sure how much he appreciates it, but I really enjoy learning. Um, but yeah, the in the world of Christmas movies, that's probably about it. Um, Scrooged is one that I watch every now and again. I'm a Bill Murray fan.
Love
My
Scrooge. That's my number one.
one of my wife's favorites is Fred Claus, and I never watched it until last year, and I really enjoyed that.
Who's in that?
That's Vince Vaughn
Vince
and Paul
Vaughn.
Oh,
Giamatti.
yeah.
So that one got added to the repertoire because of her. Like I said, that's always been one of her favorites. But I don't know. It's funny. I think we view things a little bit differently as adults than we do as kids. And like I look back now and I'm like, Jesus, like Home Alone. Like this kid's sadistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're worried about this kid. Like he's gonna end up being on a Netflix documentary at 17, you know?
Yeah, you do.
So,
Some of those things that he did for the robbers, like it probably would have killed him if they did it for real. So,
have you seen the I think is it Corridor Crew on YouTube? Someone did like a breakdown of like if someone actually did those traps, like what would happen to the people. Like they were dead like on the second or third thing. Like they never made it through the house.
I've come across people that were no longer alive in my career that took less traumatic events than what he did to those people in that movie. And it's
and
the far-fetchedness, of course, obviously is part of the fun, but I'm like,
Right.
I'm telling you right now, quote an old Foxworthy line, if you take a paint can to the head like that, you're getting Christmas coloring books for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like you don't come back from those kinds of injuries, man.
And I want to
Yeah.
talk about your job in a second, but before we get off of Christmas, I know Jesse and I both ordered and wanted to talk about this book that we got. So this is I'm Dreaming of a Brown Christmas.
Okay.
And Vernon Gibbs in the Cabal, one of our friends, actually helped create this book, him and his cousin Stephen Gray. So it's a really cool book. I know there's some glare on there, but
yeah.
And as you go through it, the animation is really good. Some of the pictures I just want to show, the animation they have in there is really good. It's just a nice, inclusive book, for anybody that kind of, of a different skin tone that has felt maybe kind of left out. This is, really cool. I know it's available on Amazon right now in a paperback form. And then if you reach out to Vernon, you can actually get a hardcover like this. And like he signed this one for me. So I really appreciate that. But just, supporting somebody in the community and a nice little story there. So
for sure. I'm the amount of creativity and artistry in the people that we've surrounded ourselves with never ceases to amaze me, man. So that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and Trevor said he's got some for the Toys for Tots. So
it's
really cool story, and it's good to support your friends as they're doing these kind of things, because it's real easy to just sit around and eat some Cheetos and watch TV, and so when somebody actually does something creative and puts something out there, definitely support your friends. So
and that'll be something too. My sister is a 4th grade teacher, and she loves inclusion books like that. And that's a great avenue. That'll be something that I'll have to pick up for her to put in her classroom. That's good stuff. I love that.
Yep.
Well, that gives me, I'll do a little thing here real quick. I have a kid's book I'm working on called Steady the Squirrel. It's about this squirrel who, unlike all the other squirrels in the tree, they're all jittery and jumpy and have like twitchy names and everything. He's just kind of slow, not like slow, but he just takes his time. He does his thing. He's not running away. And the whole book is like everybody trying to get him to do the things they do. And then at the end, it's like, and he's like, but that's not me. So it's just him coming to kind of terms with this, and everybody just kind of goes along with it in the end. So hopefully I'll get that out there someday.
That's awesome.
So hopefully it'll be in that, and probably be younger than 4th grade, I think, but
wow.
Sorry.
I'll still support. Give it to Travis. Travis doesn't read at a 4th grade level. So,
wow. So many people may not know, but Stephen, Peter, you
Uh-oh.
are the fire chief in Muskegon, right?
Yeah, White
Correct?
Lake. Yep.
Yep.
So my department covers 54 square miles. We protect 2 townships and a city. We run 2 stations. I've got 25 on staff. 5 of those are full time. The rest are supplemented with paid on call. I love my job. I'm one of those really fortunate people that was able to start doing something part time back in 2002, um, and eventually made a career out of it in 2010. And then I kind of worked my way up through the ranks, and then 2 years ago I was promoted to chief. And even I mean, I've loved every minute of it. Obviously, it has its bad days, um, but the the things I get to do and the opportunities that I'm given within my career, even just in the community. Um, I've been firefighter Pete for going on 17 years now in our school system. And I go and do all of the, stop, drop, cover your face, and roll, and get out and stay out and crawl low and smoke, and calling 911, all the fire prevention education. And I've been doing it long enough to where I also teach first aid and CPR to the freshman health class at the high school. Um, and I'm to the point now of where I've had these kids as kindergartners, and then I've had them as freshmen, and they've gone on to graduate. And some of these people have even joined the fire service, or joined EMS, become paramedics, EMTs, or gotten into law enforcement, and a lot of nursing, and that kind of thing. And it's just so cool to be a part of that. And it's hugely advantageous to do this job in a small town, because everybody knows who I am. Everybody, it's really kind of special in our community to be a part of that. Now, of course, that's not without its cons, because unfortunately, when everybody in town, when bad things happen, the people. There's a certain anonymity to being a big city firefighter, a big city public safety or emergency responder, because you don't run on people. So that adds kind of a layer of difficulty in some situations. But I've got an amazing staff. The fire board that oversees everything is hugely supportive of us. We're in a brand new station. We've been there for about 18 months. It was one of the first things when I got promoted to chief, we had a millage vote coming up, and we were able to get the millage. And then it was like, hey, congratulations, chief, we got the millage. We're going to need to start building this new fire station. Hey, by the way, global pandemic. So it was kind of literally out of the frying pan and into the structure fire. So wasn't without its challenges, but again, my staff and the board and the community have all been insanely supportive. And of course, my wife has been amazing. She was a little bit upset when I first got promoted, because I used to work 24-hour shifts. So that meant 9 days a month. She could starfish in the middle of the bed. And because I wasn't home, now she has to deal with me and my CPAP every single night. But it's been a wild ride, but man, it's been incredibly rewarding. So
It's kind of an interesting dynamic. I mean, I've watched some different shows, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes TV is a little different than real life, but it feels like just from people that I've talked to that are fire department, work in a fire department, it feels like that firehouse becomes kind of a community place where people can come and talk and hang out. And it does feel like, I know I've seen a lot of photo ops where, you're out in the community and doing things. It kind of feels like it's a center of where, in a small town, especially, where people kind of, I don't know, collect and talk and interact with one another.
it is. It's definitely kind of a nucleus, of a community. And we do. We're in all the parades, and like I said, we do a ton of stuff in the schools. And we do fire, our fire prevention open house and safety days, and we host car seat inspections, and trick or treating. We're always set up at the station, and it's not just about giving it's not just about giving candy. We advertise it as, hey, hey, it's a warm place. It's out of the rain. There's plenty of restrooms. If you're out and about and you need to swing by, like, we have all of these amenities. This is your fire station. You guys have supported us, and you guys pay for this fire station. This is your building. If you need it, come and use it. And like I said, that's boded really well for us in the 2 years that I've been the chief. And Greg, by the way, formerly the Brute Scale, got an amazing tribute figure at this last Legions Con. Well deserved. I will give anybody a tour of my fire station. We're just that proud of it. It was 5 years in the making, 2 failed millages before we finally got the go ahead. $3 million, 13,000 square feet. It's state of the art. It's amazing. And we've been in there 18 months. I gave 2 tours this last week for community members that stopped in and just wanted to see it. And hell yeah, I'll show it off. Like I said, we're very, very thankful for it. And yes, like old man Kyle said, we do have a hovercraft, which is mainly used for ice rescue. But it hovers on anything. You could drive it down the road or across the grass or across the open water. It is a very fickle beast. It's kind of unlike anything you've ever driven before. In fact, it's actually you fly it, you don't drive it. It's insane. It's really kind of a weird piece of equipment, but because of the community that we protect, we have everything. We've got our small little downtown. So you've got what they call your taxpayers, right? Which is all your storefronts with apartments upstairs, which are 150 years old and present a huge issue when it comes to, if there were to be a fire there. And then we've got, a stretch of US 31 highway. So we have 85, 90 mile an hour drivers, and we deal with that. We have all rural roads, which are all 55, 60 with huge ditches, and nobody stops at stop signs. Our entire western border is Lake Michigan. We have 2 inland lakes. So we deal with water rescues. We have jet skis and a hovercraft. Don't do it to Chief Bowden on Chicago Fire. He deserves to keep his face. But and then we have the county's second largest employer, only to the hospital in Hallman, Alcoa, which also happens to be the largest industrial. There's 8 plants in our community. And then, of course, we protect Michigan's Adventure, which is the largest amusement park in the state of Michigan. So we kind of have a little bit of everything. Last year we ran 1,324 calls in 2021. So we're very busy. But every day I wake up and I'm happy to go to work, and I wish everybody could feel that way when they go to work, and I've got a great building to do it. I have a command vehicle. I have a 2022 Tahoe that's fully decked out with all my equipment, and I'm in it pretty much all the time when I'm in the community. So at a drop of a hat, I can take off and respond, and happy, man. I'm happy.
I know you've got a little bit of a medical background as well, and some of your calls, probably don't always end the greatest. I know there's definitely some tragedy that you see, but definitely a lot of good that you're doing for that community. And just want to say, we're I'm proud of you. I think that you guys do a great job, and appreciate all that you're working towards there.
I appreciate it, man. And the majority of what we do is medical. 75, 80% of what we run medical first response. So we go before the ambulance and treat life-threatening injuries and kind of get the scene going while the ambulance is en route. And definitely, and I tell all my new people too, it's the opportunity arises 1,300 times a year to truly make a difference in somebody's life. And it can be very easy for us to look at something as, it's very ho-hum, well, this person's having trouble breathing, or this person, tripped and fell or whatever. And it's very easy to, this isn't a big deal to us. Well, maybe this person's never called 911 before. This could be the worst day they've ever had. This could be one of the scariest things they've ever been through. So the level of compassion and caring that my staff have, we were really working hard towards making sure, we kind of go above and beyond for our community. And that was kind of a big thing when I took over was how can we do more? How can we do better? And I'll share a quick, great example. My guys responded to a guy who had fallen and hit his head. He was unconscious, gets there, he's conscious, doesn't want to go to the hospital. He says, "Hey, I'm fine." Well, come to find out, the reason that he passed out was because his dog had broken its leg, and he saw the leg and the way it was angled, and it caused him to have a syncopal episode. So my staff splints the dog's leg, helps load the dog into their SUV to take him to the vet. We had a car accident this time last year, presents all over the roadway. My guys collected all the presents up, got them into a new vehicle so they could still make it they were unharmed, thankfully, could still make it to their Christmas party. And I was there for the present one. I didn't make the dog injury one. And I told my deputy chief, I said, "That's my White Lake fireman. That's what I want out of this department, going above and beyond." And he looked at me and he goes, "That's not above and beyond anymore, chief. That's just what we do." And I was like, "We get it," and we're kind of to that point where that customer service, because it's so important in a small town. It's like I said, it's been amazing. And I mean, I literally could brag about my staff for the next 17 hours. They're just that good. And I'm very thankful that I am in the position I'm in, and I have the opportunity to do some of the things I'm going to do. And like I said, I tell all my young guys, the bad days are going to come. They're unavoidable. When you get the good day, you hold on to it. You let it carry you through the bad. And when that pager goes off, if you keep showing up, you're going to affect positive change. You're going to make a difference as long as you keep coming through that door. And we've been very, very, very successful in that. So very proud to do what I do. And I'm very proud, like I said, of my staff. And I'm really glad to be part of that team.
That's cool. That's good stuff.
That's awesome.
And now that I'm the chief, I can take off long weekends to drive to New Jersey to hang out with you guys. So
that works too.
And, and then, we don't have to get big into it, but, you had put some of your skills to use on Sunday evening at the end of the show. So
it happens more than you'd think. So when you're around and people know anything about you, that does happen every now and again. But like I said, we roll with the punches and do what we do and move on better for it, right?
Yeah.
But it's cool in a situation like that to have somebody with the calm, demeanor and the background to be able to, help out in a situation like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then so many of you guys just jumped right in there to help make sure I was okay. So again, I just really thank everybody that was there. That was not the way I wanted to go out that weekend, but I'm glad I was there with you guys, and it was, yeah. So anyway,
we were glad to help. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
We're right about that 2-hour mark. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss, Pete? Anything that you're watching or reading, or anything you got coming up that you want to promote?
No, not really. I just I don't know if you guys read Lee Child's Jack Reacher series or not, if you guys are novel guys, but I just finished his latest book. And absolutely amazing. John Sanford is another one of my favorite authors. I just finished his most recent Lucas Davenport book. Shout out to Nate Strong. He's one of my fellow John Sanford buddies, but there's just so much to do in this world, and there's so much to enjoy and so much to discuss. And freaking Greg, man. So Greg, here's the problem with that. Like, you're supposed to pull out your phone and drop some Foo Fighters. You know what I mean? As I was running, I think that was more surprising than anybody else, as I was actually moving with purpose. That's not normally my forte, but no, I really enjoy reading, and I don't read comics and graphic novels the way that I used to, but I've hung true for years now on 4 or 5 authors that I read every book that come out. And so,
have you heard of one? Neil was talking about one earlier. It's called Steve Lichman. Have you heard about that?
It's a graphic novel.
It's a
Okay.
graphic novel. I think that you would probably like it. I definitely marked it down to read it, but he basically was saying it was kind of like you imagine a D&D party, and as they go into the story, but it's told from not from their aspect, but like the monsters that they're fighting. And like the
Oh.
monsters are kind of having just like normal everyday lives, just doing their thing. Like he said, one of them was like talking about how he was going to propose to his girlfriend or whatever, and then all of a sudden the D&D party comes in and they're like, we're going to kill you, and they're just destroying them and stuff. And it's,
Well,
they're just trying to live their normal monster lives, and the D&D parties are just slaughtering them.
well, and it's super funny you bring that up because one of the listeners actually just sent me a book, and it's a D&D, it's a D&D game, and they hire a DM like out of the newspaper, and they make fun of him, and he puts them into the game as their characters.
Oh,
And it's
that's cool.
been like super entertaining so far. Like he had been pitching me to read this, and because I just hadn't read it, he literally bought a used copy and mailed it to the studio so I would read this thing. But and but these other things have opened up my eyes to reading so much more. I'm reading the first of the Dritz Do Worden trilogy, the R.A. Salvatore books, and Trav's been after me forever to read those, and I had no interest until I started playing D&D. And that kind of opened up a new world because of my D&D friends. They couldn't believe I'd never seen Firefly, so I watched that, fell in love with it. Then I watched the movie, and then I started buying the novels, and I've been reading the novels and the graphic novels and all the other Firefly stuff that occurred, when they weren't willing to do the show. And but all of this ties back to something else. All this ties back to, well, Curtis said I should read this book, and I read it, enjoyed it. And then I talked to Jesse about this book, and Jesse goes, what about, well, then I read this one, and, or watching this television show. Like everything's so interconnected, and I wouldn't have had near the amount of enjoyable things that I've done in my life without bumping into people like you guys. And it's just awesome, so.
It's
For the
really
Drist
cool
books,
that
is that the original series or the prequel series?
Everybody always asks me that, Jesse. It is.
Does it start off with him being born?
Yes.
Okay, I just finished the third one myself.
Okay. Well, it doesn't start off with him being born. It starts off with his mom being pregnant.
Well,
but yes,
it's at the beginning of the book. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. So that's actually not the original trilogy. That's actually the prequel trilogy that was written later. Correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. But I was told by the experts I should start there.
Yeah.
Which normally I'm the guy that's like, no. You read,
publish order.
You watch, you listen as the author intended you to get it. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a flyer on this one, listen to the experts, and I started with that book. So
yeah, Danny in the chat and Travis both told me to start with that. That would be the better place to start. So that's what I did.
And I've really enjoyed it so far.
I think it's cool that we live in a time where you can enjoy comics and D&D and toys and as an adult and not feel shamed about it. Right. Nerd culture has become this, where it's not taboo anymore. So that's a cool part of this as well.
Joe said that he read those books in '97. LOL. I was in the 6th grade. I still had a Power Rangers comforter in '97. So in fact, I still have that Power Rangers comforter. But
I was graduating high school in '97.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate, Curtis?
96.
96. Okay.
Yeah, we both have a few more years on you, Pete.
Yeah, I was 02, so I'm not too far behind you. But
yeah. So. Cool. Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to throw the link up here. That's the link from Vernon's page for his book. If you don't reach out to him directly, that's the link on his Facebook to get his the store site for his book. So
yeah, if you want the hardcover, you can get it there. There is a paperback on Amazon, but
there was
I actually just reached out to him directly and he sent me that link there. So
cool.
Okay. Yeah, this link had the link to the Amazon page as well. I realized I talked about my thing after that and kind of like snowballed the end of your story about that. So I was like, no, that was a jerk thing to do. That was not my intent.
No, good stuff.
All right, Pete. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
It was good to get your background on D&D and all this other stuff. And it was cool hearing about your fire station and everything. So
Yeah,
thanks
if
for joining us.
you guys ever get up this way, I bet we can even arrange a ride in a fire truck. So just let me know.
All right.
Yeah, maybe we need to get up there a day or two before MuskeeCon and try that out.
I'll be here, man. So
Cool.
All right, everybody. Thank you to Pete. We'll let you slide out, and if you hang out, that's cool. If you need to get going, that's cool as well. But thanks for joining us.
My wife finally just rolled over because I wouldn't let her turn the bedroom light off. She just rolled over and covered her face. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off because I think she's trying to go to bed. So
all right.
All right.
Thanks.
Have
Pete.
a good night, guys.
Night.
Yep. See ya.
All right, Curtis, how are you feeling after 2 shows in one day?
I'm feeling pretty good. It was a good doubleheader. So
absolutely. Learn all about.
I left with quite a list of new things that I have to watch and read, though. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna get the time to do all that. So
absolutely.
I am seriously interested in the D&D thing. If you end up doing something, I think that would be really cool.
I made a list of names that I saw, and I might put a little try to put something little. Definitely won't be until the new year. And just time wise and stuff, I might start messaging everybody to see what's going on. But we'll see if we can figure something out. But yeah, that would definitely be a fun thing to do.
And appreciate everybody that joined us. I know we had 2 shows, and I think, for both shows, there were times where we were, in the 20-something odd people watching live, and for everybody that watches on the replay too. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier on the first show, next week, Curtis won't be with me next week.
That's all right. I called Pete Steven earlier. So.
That's okay. I'm turning into my dad. He would go through every sibling, and now it's to the point where he goes through my nieces and nephews and the great nieces and nephews before he gets to my name. And I'm like, come on, Dad. I mean, before he had a stroke. He's actually a lot better with it now. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, next week I've got my siblings on for the Arnold sibling Shelftacular Christmas special. And then we'll see what Christmas Day and New Year's Day bring. But yeah, we got some good guests lined up for the new year. I can't wait to do that. And Curtis will be joining me along. We'll kind of revamp the look of the logos, everything, as I move into season 2. We move into season 2 of Shooting the Shelf. And
it's going to be a fun ride.
Lots more to come. So thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat. It's always fun. Everybody that gets to watch that on replay, really appreciate it. And check out Vernon's book. Definitely want to check that out. I've got mine on order, so I'm excited to get that hopefully this week. So,
and if you haven't ordered Father Christmas, there's 500 left. Get your orders in, because there's the numbers are going down. So
if you need a running count, just message Billy Beige, Will White. He will tell you how many are left.
Yep.
But thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. And as always, what's on your shelf?